Yes, it's the end of an era for us Marvel fans as we get ready to wrap up the third phase of MCU films. There's no denying that Avengers Endgame was a momentous movie moment we had been spending over a decade waiting for. We all have our own opinions on the movie and the long road which led to it, but now we're going to hear from the people who we have to thank for making our favorite Marvel movies so great, the stars. Before he was cast as Tony Stark in the 2008 movie Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. was trying desperately to regain control of his career. Because of his struggles with addiction, the majority of Hollywood considered him unemployable, and it was only a favor from friend and Iron Man director Jon Favreau that landed him the part. But now, we couldn't imagine anyone else as Iron Man, and it's a role which was immensely important to Downey as well.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
According to him, the final 8 minutes of Avengers Endgame were his favorite of not just the movie, but the entire MCU library. He revealed that they were maybe the best 8 minutes in the entire history of the whole run of them in a way, because everyone is involved. And when it came to a sweet social media sign-off, he posted a photo on Instagram with some hashtags that will be a spoiler to those who haven't seen the movie, and a heartbreaker for those of us who have. Of course, we have hashtag Team Stark, hashtag thank you, hashtag MCU, hashtag love you, and hashtag 3000. That last number is the amount Tony's daughter tells him she loves him during Endgame, and it's apparently how much the role has meant to Robert Downey Jr. We're not crying, you're crying! It takes a bold man to admire his own rear end over and over again in one of the most highly anticipated movies in all of cinematic history. But Chris Evans is that bold of a man, but don't think that means he isn't capable of being extremely sensitive. If you shed a few tears while watching Avengers Endgame, we won't judge you. Mostly because we were crying too. And because some of the stars of the film also shed a tear or two, including Captain America himself. According to actor Chris Evans, he choked up 3 times during the first hour of the movie. And that's clearly just a warm-up, since the movie is just over 3 hours long in total. Later on, he admitted that being choked up 3 times was a total understatement. Evans says that over the course of Endgame, he cried approximately 6 times. He also claims that up until Endgame, his favorite Marvel movie moment was the infamous elevator scene from Captain America: The Winter Soldier. He must have been thrilled to see a serious throwback to this scene during Endgame. On social media, Evans described the conclusion of Endgame as an end of an era. We can't tell if Chris Hemsworth is a truly deeply sensitive person or just an incorrigible one-upper. Upon hearing that co-star Chris Evans cried a minimum of 6 times while watching Avengers Endgame, Hemsworth asserted that he cried at least that many times during his viewing. Weird flex, but okay. But there's no denying that Endgame was a major movie for both the fictional character of Thor, Odin's son, and Chris Hemsworth himself. Like pretty much everyone else on the planet, he wasn't a big fan of the movie Thor: The Dark World. He says he wasn't happy with the way the character was portrayed and felt his actions in the MCU had become stagnant and predictable. But instead of just harboring resentment, he talked over his concerns with Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige. He listened to Hemsworth's concerns and helped put together a plan to make Thor Ragnarok the best Thor movie yet. And the vast majority of people believe they accomplished that goal. For Hemsworth, all of his work in the MCU, both as a member of the Avengers and on his own character, was leading up to Endgame. So it's no wonder he shed a couple of tears when seeing the final result of the years of dedication. There's no doubt that Mark Ruffalo is a talented actor.
Ben, you want a piece?
No, not really, but when do I ever get what I want?
That's right.
But one of his flaws seems to be in direct competition with his ability to be a member of the MCU. That's right, we're talking about the many times he's leaked Marvel movie spoilers. Who could forget the time he decided to have some fun by live streaming at the premiere of Thor Ragnarok? And when he didn't know how to stop the live stream and accidentally provided his viewers with the first 15 minutes of the movie, or at least the audio from it. Apparently, Ruffalo thought Disney might actually fire him for that one. Although, we don't think that was as bad as when he blurted out the ending of Avengers Infinity War during an interview alongside Don Cheadle. So how does Ruffalo feel about being done with Avengers Endgame? According to him, the dominant emotion he feels is relief. Yes, Ruffalo is just glad he doesn't have to worry about spoiling Endgame, and we have a feeling Marvel Studios is too. He admits they gave him a fake script just to reduce the odds he would reveal some information he wasn't supposed to. In order to understand Scarlett Johansson's reaction to Avengers Endgame, we're gonna have to talk about an important plot point and the fate of Black Widow. It's no secret that Marvel Studios has struggled with the character of Natasha Romanoff. Between her fleeting and unconvincing romances to whatever was going on with her in Avengers Age of Ultron, she hasn't had it easy. But Johansson claims one great thing about Endgame is that it focuses on Natasha's relationship with herself instead of someone else. Natasha has had to do some unsavory things in her life before becoming an Avenger, and they weigh heavily on her conscience. Johansson claims she's felt like a passive observer of her own life, and she's tried to take charge and make choices to balance out all the bad things she's done in the name of duty. Ultimately, Natasha is able to let go of her past and put the future in the hands of those she trusts and cares about. Johansson calls her journey through the MCU transformative. Despite Natasha sacrificing herself, Johansson believes the MCU is in good hands. Lots of people weren't happy that Jeremy Renner didn't reprise the role of Clint Barton for the movie Avengers Infinity War, but how did he feel about it? Now that he's free to speak on the subject, Renner says it was the choice of the Russo Brothers, so we assume it was for storytelling reasons. But that doesn't mean he hasn't enjoyed his time in the MCU just because he spent some time on the sidelines. He claims the role of Clint made him a household name, and that took some getting used to. But now, not only is Renner a big star, he's also a huge MCU fan. He admits to being as surprised by the ending as the rest of us and had an emotional reaction during the premiere. Although he's usually one of the more reserved social media stars, he shared a sweet picture of himself looking incredibly emotional while embracing someone. That person is Renner's mother, Valerie Searley, who has accompanied him to many red carpet events. We don't blame him for wanting a hug from his mom after witnessing such a traumatic movie event. But since he's in talks to put out a show based on Hawkeye, we hope he's not ready to give up on Clint Barton just yet. Being a superhero means being able to make split-second decisions, but actor Don Cheadle had to do this before he even entered the MCU. Everyone knows he replaced the original Rhodey actor Terrence Howard. Marvel Studios needed to fill the role and fast, so they needed an answer from Cheadle almost immediately. And by that, we mean he had about an hour to decide. And to make the pressure even worse, he received a fateful phone call during his daughter's birthday party. When he relayed this fact to Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr., they graciously offered to extend the deadline to 2 hours.
Yes, sir. I understand.
But before they hung up the phone, they told Cheadle that sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith. And he did that by joining the MCU and becoming the superhero known as War Machine. Like the rest of the cast, Cheadle admits he didn't know how Avengers Endgame was going to end right up until the last moment of filming. According to Cheadle, Endgame was the first time Rhodey really felt like part of the Avengers despite fighting alongside them on previous occasions. We love watching superheroes save the world, but actress Brie Larson wants to change the world one movie at a time. Although she's only recently joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Captain Marvel, she has some big ideas about what she wants to see. Larson is someone who has always been a staunch supporter of diversity, and this caused quite the backlash in the lead-up to Captain Marvel. There were calls for boycotts, trolls flooding review sites with fake reviews, but the movie made over $1 billion, so we'll let you decide who won that battle. What's next for Brie Larson after Avengers Endgame? While many fans were upset she didn't get more screen time in the movie, Larson says she's proud to portray a female superhero. She's in favor of the normalization of this type of content and to prove once again that representation matters. She also claims diverse storytelling matters, the female experience matters, and we absolutely agree. The MCU has been embracing diversity lately, and Larson wants to see this trend continue in the future. It took some audience members a little bit of time to warm up to the character of Nebula, who started out as a villain in the Guardians of the Galaxy. But according to actress Karen Gillan, she fell in love with Nebula right away and was excited for audiences to see her journey during Avengers Endgame. Even something as simple as Tony Stark asking her if she had fun was a major moment for Nebula if you think about it. She grew up with Thanos constantly making her fight and replacing her body parts with cybernetics. So we have a feeling fun wasn't a major factor in her life for the most part. Now that Karen Gillan has caused us to feel for Nebula and established her as a hero during Avengers Endgame, what's next? Like Brie Larson, Gillan is on board with creating more movies featuring strong female characters. Everyone knows that Avengers Endgame was a movie that spent years in the making. The stage was set during Iron Man all the way back in 2008, and Paul Rudd joined the MCU years later with the movie Ant-Man. After all of the hard work and build up to the movie, Paul Rudd should have been able to kick back and worry about what he was going to wear to the premiere. Instead, he was besieged by gleeful fans clamoring to find out if Scott Lang was going to wind up in, well, let's just say close quarters with the Mad Titan Thanos. Rudd called the theory far-fetched, which shattered the very specific hopes and dreams of some fans. He also claims his young daughter was constantly trying to get him to reveal Endgame spoilers before the premiere and that she promised not to tell anyone. Rudd is a relative newcomer to the MCU, and he admits he was totally overwhelmed when he first joined the cast. He compares it to his time on the popular sitcom Friends, where he showed up during an established show and felt in awe of what was going on around him. There's no denying that Thanos is one of the biggest, baddest villains in all of fiction. Destroying half of all life in the universe with a snap of his fingers makes Voldemort look even more pathetic for not being able to take over a single school. But although he portrays the most powerful villain in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Josh Brolin has been kind of a superhero to those excited about seeing Avengers Endgame. Not everyone could make it to the movie opening night, which is enough of a bummer without having to constantly dodge spoilers. Brolin posted a video on social media thanking everyone who helped make the MCU what it is today. But he also took the time to condemn those who knowingly spoiled the movie for people and stated that people should be able to peruse the internet without fearing that spoilers could pop up in any random comment section. And speaking of spoilers for Avengers Endgame, of course we can't discuss the fate of Gamora without spoiling anything, since she lost her life at the hands of Thanos during Avengers Infinity War. So turn back now if you're not ready to know what happens to Zoe Saldana's character during the movie. According to Saldana, she was kept in the dark about what would happen to Gamora, and even now she still doesn't have all the answers. Between all of the fake and incomplete scripts going around and the sporadic and confusing shooting schedule, she struggled to keep up with what was going on. During Endgame, we do get Gamora back. Well, kind of. It's a past version of Gamora who doesn't remember anything from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2, or Infinity War, because they never happened to her. Yeah, we know, it's confusing. But Saldana is happy to be back in the MCU and is looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 now that director James Gunn is back on the project after being fired by Disney. She was part of the cast who protested his termination, and she's overjoyed to have him at the helm of the movie once again. Sure, we didn't see Bradley Cooper's face on the big screen, but that doesn't mean he didn't put in an effort to bring the character of Rocket Raccoon to life.
I live for the simple things, like how much this is gonna hurt.
He claims working on the movie Avengers Endgame was a great experience, but he's reluctant to take much of the credit for its massive success. Instead, Cooper credits fellow actor Josh Brolin, who plays the role of the Mad Titan Thanos. He claims that without such an incredible villain, the movie would have fallen flat, and even the combined effort of so many superheroes wouldn't have been able to save it. Not only does Cooper admire Brolin's talent, but slightly more questionable is that he enjoys Thanos' motives. He believes Thanos does have a fair point about bringing balance to the universe, and let's just remind everyone that he chooses to do so by wiping out half of all life in the universe. Did nobody consider the fact that he could have just wished for additional resources? Although Cooper doesn't advocate for decimating half the population, he does think Thanos succeeding was impressive and made Endgame all the more compelling. Much like Gamora, we can't talk about Scarlet Witch without revealing some of the plot points for Avengers Endgame, so if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for? During Avengers Infinity War, poor Wanda Maximoff had to watch her partner Vision perish not once, but twice. Ouch! Then to make matters worse, she was one of the heroes who perished during the decimation, and her fate for Endgame was uncertain. Elizabeth did end up returning for Endgame, but says the secrecy surrounding the movie was a bit much to deal with. She struggled with not knowing what was going to happen next, but now that Endgame is over, her future looks bright. Olsen is set to star in a television show about Scarlet Witch and Vision, which we're going to assume takes place at some point before Endgame. Although she's staying quiet about the project, she revealed it has a 50s aesthetic and that she's extremely excited about sharing it with her fans. As for the future of the Scarlet Witch in the MCU, we will have to wait and see, but after seeing her going up against Thanos, we definitely want to see more. Everyone knows that the Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony Russo, are the directors behind some of our favorite Marvel movies. Joe even made an appearance during Avengers Endgame as one of the members of Captain America's support group. He plays the first openly gay MCU character, and Joe claims he was proud to be a part of representing a more diverse cast of characters. But unfortunately for those who love their movies, they claim to be done with the MCU, at least for now. They claim this is truly their endgame, as they don't have any plans to film any more Marvel movies. Although they were vague on the details, adding that they have a good relationship with Marvel Studios and could come back, some believe it will never happen. According to Josh Brolin, he gets the feeling the Russo brothers are done with the MCU for good and they're going to concentrate on other projects. There have been rumors about this for years, but we have to admit we just didn't want to believe it was true. Now that we know how the actual MCU stars feel about Avengers Endgame, we want to hear from our fellow fans. Stop by the comment section to tell us what your final thoughts are regarding Endgame and the long, winding road that led to it. When you're done, make sure to click subscribe for more great videos from us here at Screen Rant. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.